March 21st, I had an application deadline for the biggest fashion competition here in Estonia called ERKI. I had to submit a full front and back range plan with set order of appearance on the runway, fixed sizing and fabric samples. Since one of the key elements in multiple looks is a 5mm metal wire, I had to add that too. The following week, it was time to see if I was one of the 16 finalists. And after celebrating a little, it was time to start sewing aggressively. Went to the store in hopes to find the exact fabric that I had left over from previous collection.
So I'm in the fabric store looking for a lining fabric for a coat that I'm making as a personal project, and just decided to check out the white section just in case I find something that would look good in my collection. But I was very hesitant. No way am I going to find a good white fabric in this random section of stretchy knits, and I find the exact perfect match of what I'm looking for. This is very soft, very gentle, slightly transparent, moves with the wind pretty well, and has this a little bit of reflectiveness, and it feels very silky and doesn't feel like it produces static, which is great. Exactly what I was looking for, and to be honest, for this price I am not even mad at it. I'm going to be able to take the 10 meters that I need. Definitely worth spending your time in the fabric store. So I'm finally back to working on the skirt, and the only part left is basically the lining, and I have previously attempted that before. As you can see, there is a top section that I've ripped out, and the reason why I had to do that is because this fabric was not stretchy at all and my lining wasn't perfect. I lined it in a way that those stretchy sections in this area were bunching up at the right side of the dress, of the skirt, sorry. So I opted for a stretchy fabric to be as the lining for it, but I kept the top section because it was first of all already top stitched, and I didn't want to go through the top stitching on the leather pieces again, because I would have had to match the stitching perfectly, and I just didn't want to risk it to have like holes in some areas. So I decided to go with the stretchy fabric to attach to this section, because the waistline is preferably not to be as stretchy either way. So I left that, cut out my stretchy fabric. It is very stretchy horizontally, which is something that I definitely want to keep, and slightly stretchy vertically, but not too stretchy so that I couldn't sew it on my regular sewing machine. I don't have an overlocker, so this is a perfect combination. I had to do 2 layers of this fabric because otherwise it would have been a bit too transparent and it would have shown the seams, and as you can see here, it does not show the seams at all. I'm going to be attaching it all together.
And with that, the skirt was done. Sewing jersey on a straight stitch sewing machine isn't the best option, but I'm just working with what I have. You will see the skirt on the body once I have a fitting on a model, because it's a size extra small and I'm just not going to fit into that. After the skirt, it was time to move on to the top from look number 5 and start mocking it up. I used an old synthetic leather scrap that was previously part of the sofa, which got reupholstered. I draped it how I liked and marked the reverse dart with a marker to later transfer to my pattern paper.
So I did just take it off the mannequin, as you saw, because I really like the teardrop shape. I traced it out. It's not really visible, but you still see enough of it to be able to trace it onto a pattern paper to develop it a bit further. So the reason why I'm trying to modify this a little bit is because I want the sleeve section to be a bit longer, to be the same design shape as I have on the other dresses. And for that, I created a little slit in this section, which will be the indication for me to extend it. And this is the precise spot where I can make it, because up until this section, up until this area, I'm going to have to make precision like relief cuts, because up until this point I have my dart extending, so I wouldn't be able to cut it beyond this point, and this is the exact area where I need the sleeve extension, so it's very lucky. I'll be able to create a very weird pattern shape which would be extending from this area. So because I'm trying to create as much cohesion as possible, so as you can tell, this dress, this top section and this dress are somewhat similar, almost the same. So I'm trying to develop this top first and then be able to translate the cut and the shape of the sleeve to those tops as well. I would have to buy fabric for this one because I'm kind of running out of that synthetic red leather that I had, which is very buttery and soft and nice. And because for this contest we're not really allowed to go outside of the fabrics that we've already chosen, I'm gonna have to find something very close to that old leather that I had, so I'm gonna have to buy a little bit of new fabric, which is not great. So after that I'm gonna be moving on to the dress, which you saw me work in the previous video, and also on this mannequin there's a bit of a leftover from that dress. I've already taken it off the mannequin and tried to play around a little bit with the cut shapes, and realized that the full-on kimono sleeve would not really work because the way it droops was a little bit too much. much. It was creating like a bubbly effect, because in this section I'm connecting it to the bust area and it has to droop in a very specific manner, so that's a bit much. I'm going to be working through it again, but at this point I'm going to go back to the top option.
Transferred the pattern onto paper and added some adjustments right away using the pattern piece that I made from the mannequin experiments in the previous video. Then cut another piece of leather, played around with it and discovered a fun new dart option. Printed all the experiments out to reflect on in my sketchbook. And went to the fabric store yet again. I was very lucky that day and found everything I was looking for. Here's everything I got from the fabric store. Apart from those blue sections, so the thread and the jersey elastic thingy, they are actually all going to be used for look number 5. This fabric is additional to the fabric sections that I still have left over from the older projects that I'm going to be using on for the trouser/skirt portion. This is the synthetic leather that I'm going to be using for the top that I'm currently working on right now. And those are just like finishing. What is this? Spider net, so glue tape, glue net, zipper, and some needles finally. Especially happy about the jersey needle, so hopefully it's going to be able to sew it a little bit more gently without leaving holes or tearing. Crossing my fingers for that. I absolutely love this dart and how it creates this droopy effect. I'm not 100% convinced that I am in love with the pointy boob section, but to be honest, I feel like it could kind of work for the collection. We'll see if I end up keeping it, but definitely the layering of this area is my favorite part because it kind of continues on with this idea of a pat down and it leaving like traces and marks and memory on your clothing. So this is definitely like a gorgeous section I'm in love with. Once I do the back portion, I'll be able to move on to the actual final thing because this weekend I'm supposed to finish it because I've got so much more to do. The crosses are next to the things that all are already done. So these two are done, this top is done, this skirt is finally done, but I still have 11 things to do, which is very scary considering the deadline is in June 11th, and before that we're also going to have a presentation, so it's kind of scary, but nevertheless I'm going to be focusing a lot of my attention and time on this project, so I'm going to start writing this now. I transferred the new mock-up onto pattern paper, wrote all the details for seam allowance, and started cutting it out of the final fabric. Well, I guess not all the details because I slightly messed up, as you can tell by the scream. But it wasn't too big of a deal since I ended up losing about 1 centimeter of length in the sleeves total. Since I wasn't about to line the whole thing, I went with the cheating method of gluing the lining fabric to the main one and finishing raw seams and bias binding. And cut off the inaccuracies. I bought an underwire for bras and connected it in the middle. If you can see, there's a bit of a thickness layer starting from here, and that's because the section from the left side is ending at this area and then the section from the right is ending at this area, so there is a point of connection. I deliberately bought C cups, even though this is a size small, which would technically mean it's a B cup, so that I could have this overlap. And now I'm going to be finding a way to attach it in a specific way that I don't have seams or any stitching on the front, because I'm enjoying the finishing without any stitching, although I'm probably going to be top stitching the shoulder seams anyway, so might as well add some seams into this section, but we'll see. Inserted the zipper, cut off the tails and burned the zipper teeth to melt them together. Then it was time for the bag gathering section. I tried it on with a gather pin to the sides and proceeded with a bunch of hand sewing because I wanted to avoid visible stitches in this section. And it's finally done. I wouldn't say that I'm fully happy with it since the zipper section is doming in a way that I wasn't anticipating, and I don't really have time to fix the issue since it would take me another day, and that's just a luxury I don't have. Anyway, I'm gonna have to accept the bunching, move on and just take it into consideration for the other looks with the same cut. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.